Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Rennie back with another YouTube video, and today I'm basically kind of going to be talking about one of my recent videos. I was talking about my job loss from June and how that kind of like fucked me up and everything. But today's video, it's not going to be a talking with Rennie type episode. I kind of just want to expand a little bit more about that and kind of the things I learned from losing my job. So today I'm gonna be talking about 4 lessons I learned the hard way after losing my corporate job, and these aren't really in any particular order besides maybe like one of them. But first I'm gonna start. The first one is, I'm gonna be honest, one, nobody at your job gives a fuck about you. And let me explain what that means, bruh. So when I was at work, you know what I'm saying, like it was my first corporate job and I really only knew my boy and shit, you feel me? So I was like comfortable talking to him and shit. But once I started getting more accustomed to the job and I started getting to know people and getting, bro, I mean, I knew everybody, it's like when you work at a small company, my company was pretty small. So when you work at a small company too, you start getting to know people and shit. And then people start getting to know you. And you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you basically get around and, once you start walking around, people are going to recognize you and be like, oh, here's such and such and blah, blah, blah. And, you become basically like acquainted and shit. So, yeah, no, I mean, I went from basically knowing nobody at my job to basically like, nah, I'm not gonna say I was like one of the most popular people, whatever like that. But no, if I walked by, people would say hello to me, people knew who I was, stuff like that type shit. So now, you know what I'm saying? And so let me elaborate. I probably was like working with like a lot of people at the time and stuff like that. And I'm gonna be honest, bro, when I got fired in June, bro, I mean, I talked to like maybe like, I don't know, on a daily basis, I talked to maybe like 10 to 20 people at a time, maybe, depending on the type of projects I was working on and stuff like that. But bro, when I got fired, there was only maybe like 2 or 3 people that actually like hit me up to like really see like how I'm doing and like, what happened in specific and stuff like that. I mean, there was people that knew after I got fired, right? But I'm mostly saying that like nobody hit me up to really like check on me, see how I'm doing, none of that shit. And don't get me wrong, like nobody owes me that shit, you feel me? But I think for me, like I felt weird because it was like, I kind of felt like such like at home. Like I feel like these were kind of like my friends, but it's like, that's another thing I learned too, is just like, yo, like, bro, your coworkers at work, bro, they're just your coworkers. Like that's it. You feel me? Like they're not your friends. They're not there to like take care of you. None of that shit. Like they're literally just people that at work. And once you go home, like that's all it is, bro. So for me, I mean, I kind of already knew that. And I mean, even in my previous jobs too, like I didn't care about people at work for the most part. Like, I mean, yeah, there were some cool ass people and shit, but like for the most part, I really understood like, yo, like like y'all are just my coworkers. Like I don't really give a fuck. But I feel like for my corporate job in the first, I feel like it, I kind of took it more personal because I was like, oh, like I didn't know nobody, but now I know people and shit. So that was one thing. But bro, yeah, nobody at your job really gives a fuck about you. So you can be there, and if you're gone tomorrow, like work's still gonna be work, and nobody gives a fuck. So that's one thing to know. So don't just treat your coworkers like your coworkers. That's really all they are, stuff like that. So moving on to number 2 is, I unfortunately didn't have an emergency fund, and I kind of wasn't really learning other skills while in this job. So if there's one thing I gotta recommend, yo, please save some money, because you never know what type of situation you're gonna be in and shit. And for me, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really saving my money, bro. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like, oh, I was splurging, whatever, this and that, but like I've been learning to be more, I guess, like financially literate and save my money and stuff like that. But unfortunately, when I started saving my money is unfortunately when I lost my job. So like, bro, I'm gonna be honest, like, yo, I'm only 25, right? So I still have a lot to go, in terms of career and making money and all this and that. But bro, if you're my age, or if you're younger or older, whatever you might be, just save money in general, because like, yo, you don't know where you're gonna be. You don't know what could happen. Your next day at work could be your last, bro. Deadass, like, what I'm saying? So it's always important to save money for whatever reason, whether it be an emergency fund, just something to put aside, like just in case your car tire gets blown. I mean, what is that percentage? It's like, what, like 50 or 60% of Americans don't have $1,000 or something like that. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. It's a statistic that people don't have a lot of money saved. And case in point, like I said, if you don't have any savings fund or emergency fund, please save some money. And also, like I said, invest in some other skills. What I'm saying? Because if you get fired and shit like that, like, yo, like you still want to be useful. You want to maybe transfer some skills that you can get to your new job or get to another job that you might want and stuff like that. So like I said, definitely save money, invest in some other skills that you might be able to transfer to move on to a new position, stuff like that, because those things are really important, especially in today's job market, which I'm going to expand upon later too. And number 3, your identity is not your job. Now, bro, I'm gonna be honest, this is a YouTube video, but I'm gonna come clean with y'all. What I'm saying? Not many people are gonna watch this video and shit, so it's whatever. But bro, when I heard that I was gonna be fired, what I'm saying, with everything I've built up and what I've told you guys so far, like, yo, when I learned I was gonna be fired, like, yo, I was sick, bro. I was sad as fuck. Like, after they at that meeting or whatever, that I learned that, you know, I was gonna be fired. And it's not even that I knew I was gonna be fired. I just had this feeling in my stomach. I'm like, you know what, regardless, I'm cooked. You know what I'm saying? I'm cooked 100%. So bro, and so like I had a meeting. It's funny, I had a meeting after the meeting of me, you know, getting that news and stuff like that. And yo bro, I was like there in that meeting and I was trying my best not to cry, bro. Like I was like, I've never fought tears so hard. And I was in a meeting with like, you know, maybe like 10 to 15 people and shit like that. And like, bro, I was just there fighting tears, bro. And then, you know, my coworkers, you know, some of the you know, funny enough, the 2 people that did hit, or the 2 or 3 people that did hit me up, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're the ones that saw me, you know, looking off and shit. So my boy, after the meeting, he was like, yo, you good? Whatever and that. And I went outside, and I'm gonna be honest, bro, I was bawling my eyes out. Like, for real, I'm being so honest. Like, yo, this shit fucked me up bad, bro. And like, you know, my other jobs that I've worked at previously, like, bro, I always left on my own and shit. Like, you feel me? Like, it was just like small little PP jobs and shit that, like, you know, getting by in college and shit like that, you know, small shit to get by. It wasn't a corporate job. So for me, like, especially last year, I was struggling to find a job, and then to get this job and then to lose it, you know what I'm saying? Especially earning the most money I ever did. Like, yo, it fucked me up on levels you can't imagine. So yeah, no, it fucked me up. But like, you know, that's because I kind of held on to my job as my identity, because it, you know, this was my first corporate position. This was, you know, me learning skills, and, you know, I was like, yo, this is my first step into the corporate world and stuff like that. And I just, you know, for me, work was my personality, you know what I'm saying? And so like, yo, like, don't trip about, you know, work and stuff like that. Like, at the end of the day, you know, a job is a job, and you don't, like, that's all it should be, you know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't, you know, be crying or worrying, but like, obviously job loss sucks. Like, I was fucking crying, but I mean it in the sense of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you lose your job, like, your life isn't over, bro. You know what I'm saying? There's gonna be other positions, there's gonna be other opportunities available, so don't trip about that shit. And it's easier said than done, of course. You know, here I am 3 months later, and now is when I'm really, like, you know, finally, I guess, like, back to normal, quote unquote, you know, having a good head on my shoulders. But this summer, you know, that I lost my job, like, it honestly, it was one of the worst, bro. Like, I got fired in the beginning of June, and I was just on like peak unemployment, bro. Like, I don't know, today, this video, I'm not gonna lie, I might be, you know, editing it and putting some shit posts here and there, whatever, you know what I'm saying, just some fucking memes and shit. But yeah, no, it was terrible. So, and my last one, number 4, which kind of all ties this shit together, but bro, job security is not guaranteed. And I don't need to tell you guys that. You know what I'm saying? You guys already know, probably watching my videos, or, you know, whatever, not even watching my videos specifically, but if you're looking at the news and you know anything about the news, you know that job security isn't guaranteed. Even if, like, you're in the corporate world or whatever, or like, however, you know, good of a skill you have or whatever experience you have, like, even, you know, even the best people, software engineers, you know, mechanical engineers, electrical, like, any big, you know, degree that you can think about, bro, even those people aren't getting jobs. Like, I deadass know engineers, and I deadass know software engineers that don't have work. And I know that software engineering and tech, like, it's a little bit more difficult to get into, stuff like that. And, you know, that's a whole other, you know, video in and of itself. But to my point is that, like, yo, like, job security isn't guaranteed no matter what position you're in. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, you know, if you're like maybe going into like the medical field, I mean, we're always gonna need doctors and nurses and you know, psychiatrists and, you know, those type of positions, stuff like that. But generally speaking, like, job security isn't guaranteed, you know, for most people, you know what I'm saying? And even then, I mean, I haven't really seen much about like maybe doctors and nurses, you know, struggling to find work, but regardless, the point is there. So those 4 things honestly are mainly the things that I like basically found out after losing my job. And I'm not gonna lie, most of these I kind of already knew about, you know, I kind of already, you know, dealt with in the past somewhat to a certain extent, but this really all came together. And, you know, those 4 lessons that I had learned, like, you know, that was basically like everything, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just crazy. So I'm yapping, I'm rambling, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to get those 4 points out and from what I learned. And I really just want to say, yo, if anything, at the end of the day, even if you get fired, I just want to say it's not the end of the world. Please, guys, just remember that. Like, it might feel like it's over, it might feel like shit's fucked, you know what I'm saying? Like, your life isn't over because you lost your job. But I do want to say to anybody that has experienced job loss or is experiencing job loss, just know, bro, we in this together, you know what I'm saying? Don't give up. I love you guys, stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.